Thanks be to God. Today I did my ministry. I started my ministry today. I began my ministry out in the world. I drove. I drove and then I was. Let me back up. So, yesterday I wanted to evangelize. I failed. Today I went out again, resolute that I would do it. And, I prayed and I prepared and I did everything that I needed to do. And then I got in my car and I started driving. I was meaning to go to the university where I went yesterday and try again. I just sort of chickened out yesterday. But I kind of drove too far. I don't know what I was thinking. I just sort of went off course, I guess, as I was driving, and I went kind of the wrong direction a little bit. And then I went to the same building that eventually I did make it to the university and I parked and everything. And I went to the same building that I went to yesterday with the intention again of talking to people about Jesus Christ and proclaiming the gospel to people. That was my goal. Okay? That was my goal. And I get there and I walk to the building. It's winter, it's cold. I get in the building and it's like a university campus, so there's all these, different buildings or whatever, or different, buildings and structures, and people go to whichever one that is their classes require them to go to. And I went to this one, and then as soon as I get in the door, it's like there's a stream of people because it's a class change, I guess. And during class changes, if you've gone to high school or if you've gone to any kind of school, it's just people streaming back and forth. And so I just kind of sat down. There was a bench there. It's not a huge hallway or anything, but there was a bench on the side. And I just kind of waited. And, at this point, my mindset was just that I'm going to talk to somebody about Jesus, about the Bible, or at least try to. That was my whole goal. And I sat there, and next to me there was some sort of like a guy sitting there like this. And he had his phone, like he had his like cell phone, right? But he was like sitting like super hunched, hoodie up, and he had his cell phone there, and he was like playing some kind of game. And I was thinking, well, maybe I could, try and talk to this guy, but it didn't seem like the right one. I don't know. It just, it didn't seem like, I just wasn't compelled to talk to him, or I didn't have the, I didn't talk to him. And then I'm still sitting there, and there's all these people going back and forth. And another person, like an Asian guy, he comes and he stands really close, and he's like on his phone like this, like looking around. And I'm not trying to be mocking or anything. I'm just trying to be like descriptive of what I really see. And then he's like standing pretty close, but it makes sense because it's like a crowded area. But I considered saying something to him because he was standing there for a long time. It looked like he was waiting for something or someone or looking for something. But I just didn't talk to him. And then after people sort of, died down, the heavy stream of people sort of died down to a trickle, I went into the library. So I had gone into here before yesterday, and I kind of went in again, and I was like, again, I'm trying to think like, who should I talk to? And also I have like just like terrible social anxiety, which, that's why it's so difficult also. But I think a ton of people have terrible or have some form of social anxiety or whatever. But then I was I was like, well, maybe I should talk to somebody in the library, but it didn't really seem like I couldn't really see who I should talk to. And I, there's a lot of people that are just kind of like really in the zone, it looks like, when they're studying. They have the laptop or they have the headphones or whatever. And I couldn't really see who I should talk to. And I didn't, also, the other thing is I don't want to be like too aggressive or weird at the same time, right? So I sort of walked over. There's like a coffee shop in the library. I was considering getting a decaf coffee or something, but then I was kind of like, no, it didn't feel right. And so I left again back to kind of like the entrance of the library, which was a little bit more open, which I actually appreciate, because the thing is, if I'm going to talk to somebody, I don't want them to feel cornered, and I don't want it to feel like really weird, like, so I just sort of walked over to like the front, and I just pulled the trigger basically on somebody, meaning that I was just like, really afraid to talk to anybody, and I was just like, I'm going to talk to somebody. And so I pulled the trigger in that sense, and I said, "Hi, what's your name?" To this guy that was walking past. And him too, so everybody is sort of like on their own track, right? That's just sort of like the general culture, essentially. There are people that talk to each other. It's a university, obviously, but many people are just sort of like walking, kind of like focused on what they're thinking about, and their head is kind of like, where they're going. It's a lot of people, not everybody, but I said to that guy, and I said, "Hi, what's your name?" And I was like, not forceful, but I didn't say it like, "Hi, what's your name?" I said like, "Hi, what's your name?" Like, it was a clearly heard, like you could clearly tell I was talking to him. I said, "Hi, what's your name?" And it sort of like broke him out of it. I don't know how to say this. I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but it was like, it was very clear. And so he said, "Hi, I'm," and he gave me his name, and I said, "Nice to meet you. My name is," I told him my name, and I said, "Can I talk to you about Jesus Christ?" And he just kind of said, "I'm Orthodox," and he was like gonna try to keep walking. It was sort of like I was breaking him out of his like pattern, and he was like, "Oh, I'm Orthodox," and he was just gonna keep walking. I said, I'm Eastern Orthodox also." And at this point, he kind of like he kind of started to engage, basically. So thanks be to God, it was kind of a success. Like, I talked to somebody, and then he started to actually engage. Like, so he basically was curious at this point, and he was asking me about which church do I go to, and he was telling me about the church he goes to. And I just have to make it clear how weird this is. And he himself said, he's like, "It's providence that you stopped me, because how many Orthodox people are there?" And just for clarity, like Eastern Orthodox or Orthodox Christianity, there's not that many. Okay, there's not that many. Although I am aware, I went to the building that is the religion and theology building. It's a huge building, and it's not just those faculties. It's tons of people, and it also contains the library. So you might say, "Oh, it's just chance," or the chances were good. I mean, of all the people, like, so yeah, the first one I talked to, he's like, he knows his stuff. He's like a very strong faith, and he has very strong faith, and he also knows a lot about the church and faith. And we were talking, and it was nice to talk to him, because he was telling me about he was a Protestant, like he was a Mennonite, I believe. And I was telling him, like, I was Roman Catholic. And, people are just very guarded and defensive. And I'm not trying to be mean or anything as I say this. But the thing is, though, that the way people talk is that they will hint, kind of like a gate. They'll hint at something that that there's a gate. You could say it's maybe like a mental gate or something, but it's that they know, and they use terms to sort of hint at the gate, and they know that that gate, it's a guard against conflict, essentially. It's a guard against, it's protecting something. What I mean by that is that he said, he was kind of hinting at, do you know, like, the difference in the church between, the schism, like the difference between Roman Catholicism and Orthodoxy, and do you know about the difference between Protestantism and everything? And I was kind of like telling him, like, yes, I know. And he was like, oh, okay. Yeah. So he kind of also knew, which I appreciated as well. Because, again, a lot of people do not know almost anything. But it was a good conversation. And I have to also point this out. Keep in mind, as I'm saying this, none of this is real until I did something. None of it was real. Sorry. It is, what I mean is, it is real, but now it is real. None of it was real or materialized or whatever until I did something. Not saying that it was me alone, because I believe that the Holy Spirit was guiding me. But it's like God's plan. Like, you lift your heart to God, and you try and be a part of God's plan. You don't try and pull God down and say, okay, yeah, now you do this, this, and this for me. That's not really how it works at all. And so there's a great amount of humility in that, like, is required, basically. But my point is that none of that was real until I pulled the trigger and just said, hi, how are you? Or, hi, what's your name? And that's really the important part, and that's the part where I feel like it's a success. Like, I felt like that was a success right there, just by doing that. And then also, I think by mentioning Jesus Christ too, that was a success as well. Not just saying, hi, how are you? Because if I gave somebody the instruction, go say hi to somebody and ask for the time, that's not very hard. People can kind of follow instructions, and it may be difficult for them on a certain level, if it requires contact with somebody else. But if I say, go to them and talk about something that's deeply important to you, that's really hard. Okay, that's really hard. And I'm not trying to, like, overly congratulate myself or something, but it is difficult. Like, I just have to make that clear, that it is difficult, especially for the first one. And I'll tell you now. So this guy, he was very knowledgeable, and he was really curious about what I was doing, the church I belong to, and I told him I'm a catechumen, and he's like a reader, which I think that's like I'm still fairly new to the church, which I told him, but I think a reader, that's, pretty high up there. And he said he came to the church a few years ago, I believe, but he's also doing like an online seminary course, something like this, or a theology course. I think it was a seminary course. So a very knowledgeable man, and but he's also pretty young. He was around my age, around somewhere in mid-20s to 30 or something, which I'm 30, and yeah, he was kind of he said my heart was in the right place, but he had concerns basically about me evangelizing, and I have to talk about this because this kind of makes me a little bit mad, and I'm not really trying to be mean to him or anything, but this is a general thing I noticed, and I really have to point this out. So he had some concerns, which I understand, but his concerns were that as a catechumen, somebody learning about the faith, should I really be going out and talking to people about it? Which I understand the concern, and I told him that, but I said that my main response to that was that nobody is evangelizing, nobody is spreading the faith, or very few people are. And I said that publicly, most people are, the direction of the public is moving into secularism, pluralism, and just general amorality. People don't even really have any connection to the divine. Or if they do, in my opinion, a lot of it is evil stuff, like that you should not be messing around with. And people don't even really know. And it's like, just in general though, in the public sphere, not many people out there proclaiming Jesus Christ. Not many people. You see people wearing crosses sometimes. It's pretty rare actually. But for the most part, people are into like Netflix, they're into weird Discord stuff, they're into like all kind of secular media. And my point to him was just that evangelization is what we're called to do as Christians. But I understand what he's saying. And the other thing he said was, and I actually agreed with his second point, he said, you have to be careful because you're opening yourself up to temptation and to demons by going out and spreading the word and evangelizing. And I actually agreed with him. And he said, I think you should get a priestly blessing, a blessing from the priest before you continue more. But he said, I think your heart's in the right place and that the Holy Spirit is in you, which I really appreciated hearing that. Seriously, I really appreciated hearing that. Those affirmations for what I'm doing. I really appreciated that a lot. So thanks be to God, like the first person I talked to, and he said he thinks it's providence. I agree. It's like, that is so, hard to understand, really. You could say it's chance, but I think that was really amazing, something special, because there are not many, people faithful, I guess. And then to have the same faith, I mean, yeah, it was pretty special. So anyways, yeah, so I took his advice and I messaged the priest about getting a blessing. And in my message to the priest, I made it a pretty strong message, I felt, because I know, like, I'm already familiar with the general attitude. And I agree, and I think that I do need to have some protection and guidance, and not just be going out by myself, I guess, because of temptation and because of demons, like real evil things that are out there. And when you start to speak on a spiritual level, you actually open yourself up to that. Not saying that you shouldn't, but you just have to be careful. Because now you're engaging in a different, I don't know about realm, that's not really the right word, but you're engaging on a different level, like a higher level. So it's very powerful is the point. So it must be respected. Otherwise, you'll get humbled basically, or you will or something, it could go poorly. But at the same time, I would say that it's actually necessary. This is what we're required and called to do. So that's why I'm doing it. And okay. But the part that makes me annoyed and angry, I have to point this out. The part that makes me angry is what I've noticed for most of my life, and it is that whenever I try to do something, whenever I'm trying to do something which I think is a good thing or a right thing, or I'm putting something of myself on the line, it almost never feels enough for other people. It never feels enough. There's always a criticism. There's always something I could be doing better. There's always, it's like, I don't know about being talked down to, but it's like never enough. Never, it feels like it's never enough for other people. And that's really tough, just letting you know. Not trying to be a big whiner or anything, but it's really frustrating. It's almost like to the point of enraging, not at this guy, but in general, that it's just never feels like I can do anything that's good enough for people. And in that way, I just get sick of it, and I'm just like, F it, and I just follow the instructions. I follow the to a T, what is the best optimal path, whatever you could call it, in society. So I kind of went that route. That route kills you spiritually. You die. Sure, you escape a lot of criticism, but you're just kind of like in the very middle of the norm. And it's kind of gross, because the norm is so far from what's true. It just gets gross. And I'm talking about like at work and with other matters and whatever, and it's just bleh. So when I try to do something which, I have like a spiritual driver, I'm kind of going out on a limb in a sense. It's like it's never good enough for people. And I kind of know what this is at this point. It's a defensiveness, and it's not exactly on my behalf. It's on other people's behalf, and it's their paradigm. This is a complicated concept, but it's a worldview thing. People are defensive, generally. And I can talk about all the reasons why. I have done. I think people know a lot of the reasons why people in the world are just defensive generally. But it's that if I start, like with this guy, talking shop a little bit, or talking about, my goals and fears and everything, which is almost like tied to talking about faith. You almost have to talk about that. If I do that, then it's almost like, well, he's now telling me about his worries. And I think he was pretty measured, but and again, we don't know each other that well. We just met and we just started talking, but yeah, he was sort of telling me, he's basically like telling me like, well, should you really be doing this, and I'm like, I wasn't trying to argue, but I had to tell him just sort of firmly, like, yeah, my concern is that society, nobody talks about this stuff. It is important, and within the public sphere, nobody is talking about faith, like, at all, specifically Jesus Christ. And if they are talking about it, a lot of times it's like evangelical stuff. And yeah, I don't know, like, I'm by evangelical I mean like Protestant stuff. So yeah, I appreciate his concern, but I had to sort of be clear about that. And yeah, Yeah, so I think more people should be proclaiming the gospel, especially in Canada. Nobody says anything. And so that's what I'm trying to do. But I am thankful for him. Thankful for him. It was a success. It was a success. My evangelization was a success. And I don't think I actually spread anything. Well, I might have spread a couple things that were different to the way he thought, but I didn't like preach the gospel to someone who didn't even, to an unbeliever or something. He's already a believer, right? So yeah, thanks be to God overall, and I'm off to a start. I do need a blessing from the priest. I hope he gives me one. If he doesn't, I don't know. That would be a bit of a... I'm not sure if he doesn't give me a blessing, or if he tries to do the extreme caution thing and like delay and delay and delay. You know, I will be irritated if that happens. And I don't know what I'll do in that situation, but I would say that this priest seems good. He's wrong about Jews, though, because I said to him, "Are Jews evil?" And he said, "No, they're not evil." What? No. And I was like, Jesus tells us they're evil. And so I have all the reasoning for that. And obviously it's controversial. I think everybody knows that. But my whole point is that, yes, Jews are evil. Yes, they do hate Christians. They want, you know, there's a lot of reasons, right? I don't want to get sucked into talking about all of that again, but like they pray for the death of all Christians every day. They call it the Birkat Haminam. It's a daily prayer in the Jewish 19 daily prayers. Maimonides, one of the great theologians, said to pray for the death of all Christians every day. If you read into the Talmud, yeah, it's they hate Jesus. So I don't want to get like really sucked into talking about that again. But I would say that you know, my priest, he's off about Jews, but he seems like a good man. The thing is, though, I haven't had a good experience in a similar scenario with a priest before. Now, granted, the last priest that I had a bad experience with, he was a Catholic priest. So, there's that going on. But I would say that I've also gone and been to Mass with Catholic priests who are very loving, and I could actually feel, it felt like that God was speaking through them. I think, I'm not 100% sure, but it was very powerful from other Catholic priests. But I would say that Catholic theology is incorrect, you know, currently. Nostra Aetate is incorrect, but but that last experience I had with this Catholic priest, I just want to go over it, was that I was in a slightly similar scenario. That is, I was getting more involved in the church. And just for context, these churches are like all old people. It's all gray hair. There's a few young people. There's some families. And then the younger people, they're Filipino. Or there was some people from India. And the like feeling among the priests at this church was like, you know, we're going down. He literally played a video of the Titanic sinking at the pastoral council, which I was a part of. So I was on this pastoral council, which is supposed to be like some members of the parish or parishioners, you know, people who go to the Mass, the service. They sit on the council, and they're supposed to advise the priest, or be sort of like maybe advise is not the wrong word, but have a discussion with the priest. Maybe advise is not the right word, but have a discussion with the priest about, you know, church matters and the direction of the parish, and so on. Well, I was on that meeting, and it was like a freak out. Like, he had like a freak out. He was playing the video, and I'm not trying to be really mean to him, but it was like a total venting session. And the other people in the council, a bunch of women, like older women as well, they were having like a back and forth blow up between them. And I was saying, because he was asking at one point, you know, maybe after the blow up or before, I can't even remember, like, well, does anyone have any ideas? So he was trying to make it clear that the church is like, you know, the Titanic sinking, and he's like saying, are we just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic? And it's like, okay, well, I have a couple ideas. So I stated my ideas: a Bible study and evangelize out in public, like make it known. We are a church, you know, you can come to the church, you can call a phone number, someone will talk to you, we could go sit out in the public and talk to people. It's kind of like spreading the message, spreading the gospel. That's what evangelization means. That's what it tells us to do in the Bible. That's what the apostles did. And yeah, he's just like didn't even care. He like did not even care. And it seemed like somebody else in the meeting, you know, they were like, yeah, that's a really good idea. Like, it seemed like they were kind of like into it, you know, just through body language. But the priest, he just didn't even seem like he heard it or cared. I think he heard it, but he didn't even really seem like he cared. And I pursued this for 7 months because I was still going, right, to this church. And I was just craving for something more. I was craving for a sense of community, fraternity, whatever you want to call it, but spiritual hunger, just to talk with people about spiritual matters, which it's so dried out in society. No one seems to be able to have that conversation. You would think a church is the place, right? But I had to pursue just to get this to happen. They had a few faith studies, but they were so regimented, and it was like not what you would expect really from a Bible study. It was like, watch a video, here's a paper with a bunch of preset questions where it's like the answer is already kind of known, and then they kind of ask people, well, what do you think? And I mean, it's so like, I don't know, it's so pre-formulated, and like what the response should be. And I mean, I get it, I understand, but that wasn't really what I was looking for faith study. And although there was some good stuff in those studies, but a lot of it was like kind of basic stuff you know and you've heard before. So I wanted to start one, and it was so difficult with that priest. Seriously, it was so difficult, and I really hope it doesn't turn into that again with this new priest. But I don't think it will, actually. This new guy seems way better. That last priest, I think he had some personal issues, and I'm not trying to be mean to him or anything, but I think there was a lot going on that was he was struggling with, which I understand because I struggle with a lot myself. But if you're in that position, you know, you have a duty. So you're supposed to facilitate the Holy Spirit and facilitate like the body of Christ to grow and to function. So it was kind of tough, really, that way. So anyways, that's my general point, is that there's a ton of defensiveness, so much defensiveness in Canada. And I mean, I guess you could say among spiritual people, but the thing is, I think that's warranted among certain beliefs, like you will defend them. But I would say that a lot of people are just wrong about what they're defensive of. And I kind of understand it at this point, that a lot of it is, you know, hurt and pain and trauma and um, things that people are holding on to, and how their identity is bound up with other things, and people have been psyoped so much, and we've been told so many false stories like for so long, and people are isolated and atomized, and they're in different bubbles online and in real life. And so I understand, basically, but I still think that uh, the important thing is to really evangelize, to spread the word, spread the gospel. I think that's important, because really it is a message of love. It is counter, or it supersedes all of that other stuff. It really does, and it heals, and it brings people forgiveness and mercy, and reunites them to God, because that's the point. That is the point. Sin separates you. God gives you mercy and forgiveness, which reunites you. It's not easy, but yeah, it's important. Because the other path is that, death and destruction and eternal separation, which is hell. And yeah, so that is my point. All right, so it was really nice to read the Festal Meneon with that person I met. And he took my phone number, and he's sending me now some book recommendations and some different things. And I asked him too, like I said, what is the kerygma in the Orthodoxy? And he didn't actually know. He tried to send me something, but it wasn't it. The kerygma means proclamation. And in a lot of other, faiths, I guess you could say, but that are Christian or call themselves Christian, I suppose you could say, they do have some really strong evangelization techniques or something, you could say. Like Romans Road is one. Yeah, anyways, but I was trying to find stuff for like Orthodoxy, and all I could really find online when I looked is people saying, well, how do you evangelize people to the Orthodox faith? Is, well, they say, well, you live it. I was like, okay, well, that was not a satisfactory answer to me. And I think that living it is going out and speaking it as well. So that's what I was doing. And this guy, he said to me, we have to be obedient. Obedience is important in Orthodoxy. And I said, I agree. Obedience to what the Bible tells us to evangelize. So I think he took that point. I think he said, well, yeah, you go out and tell all the nations. I was like, yeah, you do. Like, that's what the point is, right? Or that's what the Bible says. But I also told him it's difficult because with Orthodoxy and compared to other faiths or other Christian faiths, if you could call them that, I guess, but Orthodoxy, you have to harmonize the entirety of Scripture as well as the early church fathers, and that's a lot of information. Other, Christian belief systems, I guess you could call them, is they do a lot of picking and choosing, and that's a lot of people's objection to them, is that they pick and choose verses, and it gets confusing for people. And more confusing, and other things as well, enraging maybe. But yeah, I would say I'm just going to keep trying with evangelization. I started the Discord and invited a few people from my church, so I'll try and turn that into a weekly Bible study. And I'm going to keep trying with resisting lust and temptation. So hard, so difficult, seriously, so hard. And I have a challenge with that just through my own life, and my life history, but also with these dating apps like Hinge and Tinder. I match, I don't know, it's just really tough, because I feel so lonely as well. it's not just like horny, and I'm not trying to be gross or anything, but it's not just horny, it's also like really lonely, right? And I think if you're, for most people, they can relate and they can know what I'm talking about. I know it sounds funny or whatever, but it is a pretty true statement. And I know some people, they have no problem with that and they have great lives and whatever, and it doesn't even bother them, but it's something I deal with, so I'm just sharing that. And yeah, so I matched with a girl, and she's like very attractive, but yeah, I don't know, like I watch these videos as well. Like, it's such a contrast. Like, I have such a contrast in my life, which is not a good thing, between like, my public persona, I guess you could say, and like, the things that I kind of keep in the dark or keep in secret. And I think a lot of people can relate to this. I'm not saying I'm unique in some way, but like, I watch these videos on YouTube by this dating app coach guy. He's a playing with fire guy, and his advice, it works. The thing is, though, is that I don't know if it's like a good thing, and when I watch these videos of him, and sometimes, like, it's not like I see like I see kind of like almost like evil, and I don't really like that at all. And I see kind of like what could be a demon in some people. And I'm not trying to be really cruel or anything, because, I very well could have a demon inside me. And I don't like thinking that, obviously. But it's something that I have to be kind of humble about. And ask for help from God and from other people as well. But yeah, demons and evil things, they used to scare me a lot. They don't scare me as much anymore. That's how I can kind of talk about them. Because they used to scare, like, you can talk about it if you just mock it and you don't even think it's real or whatever. But, I believe in God, so necessarily I believe in these other things, like these evil things. But I can talk about it because they don't scare me as much anymore, because I believe that God is greater, and that, God protects us. We obviously have to be careful. We have to have discernment, and we have to pray for protection. We have to not overextend ourselves. We have to pray for the Holy Spirit to guide us and protect us. But yeah, so yeah, I think it took courage today for me to talk to someone. And I'm not trying to exalt myself, but I just need to acknowledge that. I think it actually took courage, One other thing, though, that I have to point out that really helped, I'm not really trying to take away from everything, I'm just trying to be honest and balanced here. I found that taurine really helps me. So I have the supplement, it's called taurine. When I take it, and I just took it, I think, yesterday, and I can't remember why. It might have been because I saw a post on X or Twitter, but taurine, I find that really, almost, it's like, it helps me so much just come back to reality, in a sense. And I'm able to, like, string thoughts together better, or it's not really that. It's more that I'm able to be more normal, kind of. I don't really know how better to put it, but taurine is very powerful for me. So I took like 1,000 milligrams, and taurine, it's they put it in energy drinks, and some people use it in workout supplementation, but for some reason, and I don't know the complete mechanism or anything, it really does help me, and I feel it helps bring me back to like normal, in a sense. To where I just feel more like fluid. Kind of like fluid is the way I would put it. And my brain doesn't get hung up on every little thing, which it's honestly really a blessing. I appreciate it. And I'm careful. I look at the studies. I'm like, well, how much taurine can you take? Well, you shouldn't really take more than 3,000 milligrams a day. And you can take it for a prolonged period of time. It doesn't seem like you can't from the studies. And it doesn't have a very long half-life. I think the half-life is 4 hours. That's when half of the drug is out of your system. So it really only lasts like its full potency or effect for like 1 or 2 hours, really. But it'll still be in your system for a while after that. The half-life is 4 hours. But I really appreciate that. And yesterday I felt so miserable, but I took a taurine and a L-theanine, and I actually felt kind of great after that. I don't want to like abuse these things or use them too much. I'm careful with that. But I also try to think like, you know, would it be okay for me to take them? Like, is it okay to do that? You know, because I wonder, like, should I just be suffering, right? I wonder, should I just suffer? But I'm not really sure on that. And I think that's an important question because, okay, I think that's a huge question, super important question. But I think that it is okay to take taurine in this circumstance. So yeah, it really does help. Yeah, so my struggle with dating apps is ongoing. I don't know what's going to become of that, but I just, I'm trying to do well with that. I'm trying to not do evil with that. Like, again, I would like to get married and have a family. So, yeah, I wanted to read from John 8, because I think this is an important part. It's where Jesus rebukes the Jews. Okay, it is... Oh, right, okay, so they want to kill him. So it says here in John 8, verse 40, it says, "But behold, now you want to kill me, even a man..." Oh, wait, sorry, let me back up. John 8, verse 39. "They answered, saying to him, Our own father is Abraham. Jesus said to them, If you were the sons of Abraham, you would be doing the works of Abraham. But behold, now you want to kill me, even a man who has told you the truth, which I heard from God. This Abraham did not do. But you do the works of your father. They said to him, We are not born of fornication. We have one Father, God. Jesus said to them, If God were your Father, you would love me, for I proceeded and came from God. I did not come of my own accord, but he sent me. Why, therefore, do you not understand my word? Because you cannot obey my word? You are from the father of accusation, and you want to do the lusts of your father. He who is a murderer of men from the very beginning, and who never stands by the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaks his own lie, because he is a liar, and the father of lies. But because I speak the truth, you do not believe me. Which one of you can rebuke me because of sin? If I speak the truth, why do you not believe me? He who is of God hears God's words. For this reason you do not hear, because you are not of God. The Jews answered, saying to him, Did we not say well that you are a Samaritan, and that you are crazy? Jesus said to them, I am not crazy, but I honor my Father, and you curse me. I do not seek my glory. There is one who seeks and judges. Truly, truly, I say to you, whoever obeys my word shall never see death. The Jews said to him, Now we are sure that you are insane. Abraham and the prophets have died, and yet you say, whoever obeys my word shall never taste death. What? Are you greater than our father Abraham who died, and the prophets who died? Whom do you make yourself? Jesus said to them, If I honor myself, my honor is nothing, but it is my Father who honors me, the one of whom you say he is our God. Yet you have not known him, but I know him. And if I should say, I do not know him, I would be a liar, like yourselves. But I do know him, and I obey his word. Your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day, and he saw it and was glad. The Jews said to him, You are not yet 50 years old, and yet you have seen Abraham? Jesus said to them, Truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was born, I was. So they took up stones to stone him, and Jesus hid himself and went out of the temple, and he passed through the midst of them and went away. Okay, so I really like this verse, this part in John 8, because it is Jesus talking to the Pharisees, the Jews, the Sadducees, who basically are at the top of the religious order or hierarchy of his day, yet they are evil. They are doing the works of their father, the accuser, the slanderer, the deceiver, which is the devil, which is Satan. And it was interesting there because at one point they said, you are born of fornication. Now this is interesting. So I'm reading out of the Lamsa Bible, the translation from 1931 by George Lamsa, who translated from the Peshitta, which is the Aramaic, which a lot of Bibles are not from that. So this is an important note. But they use the word, the Jews called him born of fornication. So this is actually what Jews believe about Jesus. And this is written about in the Talmud. It's written about Jesus in the Talmud by Peter Schaeffer. But this is the main thing that Jews really believe, is that Jesus was, they have a word for it, but he was kind of like, I think it's, and I don't want to be, spreading evil here, but they really do believe that he was like a bastard son. They believe all kind of horrible things about him. They acknowledge his existence, although a lot of Jews try to deny it because people have no idea what's going on. So they think that, oh, it was some other Jesus, but that's it's a lie. It's confirmable in the Talmud, just based off of the usage of the name Jesus the Nazarene, as well as the timing. But the Jewish narrative is actually quite different. And yeah, there's a lot there to get into, but the thing is that they say that he was born of fornication. They say that, the Virgin Mary was, it wasn't parthenogenesis, that Jesus' father was some Roman soldier named Pantera. That's actually a Jewish inversion on the word Partheno. When I say Jewish inversion, I mean Kabbalistic. It's a Jewish mysticism. It's an evil thing. And it's like a spell, basically. I rebuke that in the name of Jesus. It's totally evil. But the thing is, though, that Jesus rebuked them, and he was saying, because they were questioning his authority, where do you get the power? Who are you? We have the word from God who gave it to our ancestor Abraham. Jesus says to them, very truly, or truly I tell you, before Abraham was born, I was. In some other translations it says, before Abraham was, I am. Important distinction as well, but and really there's a lot to get into there as well. But the thing is that Jesus is saying that he's saying he gave the law to Abraham. He's saying I am the law. He says, you think you have the law from Abraham? I am the law. I gave it to Abraham. I am God, essentially he's saying. This is why they say that he's insane, crazy, has a demon in some translations. But he's telling them, no, I don't have a demon. I'm not insane. I'm not crazy. I gave the law to Abraham, and the Jews hate this. They hate this. So they want to kill him. So they're picking up stones to stone him, because this is like the main thing you cannot do is idolatry. And I'm not sure if this is the accusation of idolatry or sorcery, but they say that, they do say he's both. They say he's an idolater and a sorcerer, but, he's saying that he is God, so, and he is, but they hate that, and that's punishable by death, back then, right, in Jesus' time. And at least under the under the system in the Old Testament. And so I want to make clear again, though, or further to the point of Jesus being God. So this is a point that Jews won't agree with, but in the Old Testament, Melchizedek was a Gentile. So this is in Genesis 20 verse 18, I think. It might be 18 verse 20. I might have those reversed, but it's in Genesis. Melchizedek comes out of a town, and he's the high priest, and he blesses Abraham. Why is this important? Abraham is these Jewish people are referring to then in Jesus' time, and today they're referring to Abraham and Moses as well, that the law was given to Abraham and Moses from God. But before that, Melchizedek came out and he blessed Abraham. Melchizedek was a Gentile high priest. He was like a king priest, like a theocratic ruler or something like this, and of the time. And he blessed Abraham, and Abraham tithed to Melchizedek, meaning he gave a tenth of everything to Melchizedek. Why is this important? Because the greater always blesses the lesser. So we actually know this from Hebrews. So that's in the New Testament, but so this may be a point of disputation among Jewish people, but it's clear though in the Old Testament, the Torah, or I think the Torah, I'm not 100% clear, but it's in Genesis on the terms around that, but that Melchizedek blesses Abraham, Abraham tithes to Melchizedek, and this is how we know that this is one of the ways we know that Jesus is God, because Melchizedek is a type of Christ. He's a non-Jew, he's a Gentile, and he is the high priest of the land. And he gives a blessing to Abraham, and it was interesting. So that's my main point there. And it's a refutation to Jewish people, but obviously they dispute that and deny that. They hate that. But I actually, going back to today when I was evangelizing, I was talking to that man I met today at the university, and when we were saying goodbye, I said, "God bless you," and he kind of caught that, and he said we don't really say that in the Orthodox Church, or we're careful about saying that. I said, I apologize, because I just recently learned that was reading about Melchizedek and learned that the greater always blesses the lesser. So I didn't mean to imply that, and he I think he appreciated that, and he said, yeah, exactly. And he said, you can just say God be with you, or God keep you. And I said, yeah, I like to say God be with you because that's what goodbye means. People say goodbye. That comes from God be with ye. It's an old English phrase. And I think the full phrase is God be with ye until we meet again, because people back then understood that you never really are separated from people. You may be separated physically, but you're always together in God. So whether that be you're not going to see them again ever on earth, well, you'll see them again in heaven, in the afterlife, right? So I told him that, and I think he appreciated knowing that as well. But yeah, so actually, to be honest, I kind of wanted to tell him I love you. I think that would have maybe been a little bit more appropriate. It was hard for me to tell what's appropriate, but that is the whole point. The whole point is that we're supposed to love each other, go out into the world and love each other. That's what evangelization really should be. It's a message of love, right? It's just hard to get there. It's hard to get there, especially with everything that's going on in the world. But so thanks be to God for today, and for the protection and the blessings and the providence. And I'm praying for that man. He was a very nice man. I appreciated him. So that's all.